Okay, so I'll record this session as well. So I would say try to ask me the question in a general way. If that's really specific to your particular code, I would say I can answer that offline, but just in general. For example, if you somehow get stuck at a particular point, maybe my answer can help your colleagues as well. Okay? If there's any question you have. I'll start with you. Yes.
So I'm not sure I can explain it verbally, but I tried to make it. I think this question is the lab
is it
four.
lab 4? Okay.
Yeah. So I know you saying you have to develop one of the inner hierarchy on the model cluster. You mean should I have to create another model cluster, or I have to work in ETF?
Okay. So the question was, what would be roughly the inheritance hierarchy structure for lab 4? Okay. I'll tell you what the minimum should be. Okay. Good question. I think that's general. Conceptually, you can think about this is your ETF, okay? And then with all the abstract UI, ETF command, basically. So one of them is ETF command. I love them, yeah, okay? That's deferred. For example, one of them is ETF set of chess, for example. Okay, good. So now let's say somehow your model cluster is over here. Okay, depending on how you design your lab 3, maybe some of you simply got a giant Superman class over here that does everything for lab 3. That's okay. You wouldn't get penalized. Okay, even for lab 4, you are still fine. Okay, I'll tell you what the minimum is for lab 4. The minimum is assuming that you read that chapter I made available to you. Okay, you may have a subfolder. Okay. You think about, let's say here, conceptually, what you're doing is you're having a subcluster. And the way to create a subcluster is not by using iPhone Studio. Simply go to your file system, create a subfolder. That'll be the easiest way, okay? Good. Let's say, let me make it a little bit bigger, okay? So you can see it clearly. So let's say I have a subcluster over here. Let me just call that maybe comments, for example. So now the hierarchy you should see over here should correspond to, I should remember correctly, page 17, 700. Okay, that's what I mentioned in this instruction. Okay, look at that page over there. For example, okay, you may design. I would say if you simply call it command, it may not be so customized to you. I would suggest, for example, let's say me, I can say I put my initial here, JW, and then command. I'm just saying for example, right? You can just make it more customized to your name. Okay. And then, are you recording? Are you recording? You don't need to. I'm recording now. Yeah. So now, I can just have a class over here, and then under which I can have the various one that should be a command, right? Basically, you can think about every class over there. Eventually, they will be instantiated and added to the history array or history list. Okay. And then, for example, it can be JW command. And then set of chess, for example, right? That could be undo. Basically, everything that can be applicable to undo redo, there should be a subclass over here. Just give you another example. And also, JW, let's say star game, that should be there too. Okay, as many as you think appropriate. That would be the minimum for lab 4. Let me mention something that's also I think will be useful. Did you realize there was a singleton pattern for lab 3? Okay. Singleton pattern simply means, let's say for example, if you have a class over here, let me talk about default. You have something called ETF model over here. And then, of course, you got another class called ETF model access, right? That's where we implement a singleton, okay? You can think about like this way. The ETF model access is going to somehow refer to this particular ETF model, right? Using the once routine, remember? Okay, you can review the singleton yourself, okay? So now, what was the main client for ETF model access in your lab 3? Model access, I'm talking about. ETF command, exactly. Okay, first of all, back in lab 3, okay, let's a little bit slow. ETF model should be where you put in the logic, right? Or there might be multiple classes, that's okay. ETF model access over here is where the singleton pattern will be made to work. Okay? The only clients in lab 3 was the ETF command. So somewhere in your ETF command, you declare like a local variable, like because it's expanded. Okay. So now there should be a new client for this particular case. Take a guess. What that should be? Huh? JW command, exactly. Okay. So now that's the thing I want to clarify for you. Okay. So now for the new command you are trying to create, they should be get accessing to the same ETF model, the same chessboard. How about that? So that means one moment. So that means every time when you're trying, let's say this guy, the commands is gonna maintain some kind of like history over here, and then you may have, it's again polymorphic, right? It can be, for example, command setup chess, and also command, let's say star game, let's say, and etc. Okay, and then think about every command over here. They should somehow refer to some board. The board they refer to must be the same as what the ETF command over here is referring to. They should talk about the same thing. If they talk about different things, you're in trouble. You got very inconsistent results. Say it again. Model, sorry. Models board, yes, exactly. So conceptually, you can think about whatever however when you use a singleton pattern back in lab 3 from the ETF command, you want to use it the same way for your command in this particular lab. So if you just want to revisit instruction a little bit, I mentioned that don't get confused. ETF command here, they're commands, true. But the command you want to create by yourself should be in the model cluster, like in the pink. So that's the minimum I'm expecting from you. Let me say one more thing. Okay. So now, for those of you who really want to be reaching the better design, okay, I would say it's optional. Okay. Again, the pink part is required. TA will check. Okay. The part that's kind of optional, but I would recommend you do is to think about how you design the model logic for the game itself. Maybe you only got 2 or 3 classes in your lab 3. That may not be a very good design. For example, how many of you actually use inheritance for lab 3 for your model? Oh, Mark, you haven't used it? Oh, okay, I'm surprised. That's okay. That's okay. But I would suggest, I started too late. Okay, hopefully you'll start earlier this time. Okay, anyway, my point is, for your learning, maybe take some time. First of all, get a minimum to work first with your lab 3. Get it to work. If that's already working, submit it for credits. Okay? But now for your learning, I would say try to also refactor the orange part over here. Try to refactor that into some inheritance hierarchy so that you got, for example, chess piece, under which you got ETF, you got the set of chess. Oh, sorry, got confused myself. You got chess piece, and under which you got king, queen, etc. Right? That's what I would recommend for lab to improving your lab 3. Questions?
So you said like if we make our own commands and we also have them call them model access, like should we still keep the old class also still being as chronic?
Yeah, I would say, you know what, I just want to talk about the conceptual level. How exactly you do it, you can show it to me later. So conceptually, what you're doing is the JW command over here should be very similar to ETF command in the sense that they should really somehow get access to the model. Whatever model it is, it could be a game, it could be a board, or it could be something.
So for lab 3, for example, when, let's say, the user input a command, they would be using the ETF command, but for lab 4, we want them to be calling the commands from
Nope, that's not what I meant. So thinking this way. In lab number 4, okay, let's say if the user simply say set up chess, for example, and then something over here, okay? What's going to happen is this. When this is executed, for sure you're going to execute the command over here in the ETF setup chess, right? That thing over there is going to do a couple of things. Number one, somehow it is going to call whatever setup chess feature it is in your model. That's basically lab 3. What you got to do in addition to it is somehow, as part of this, you have to also insert a new command object into your history. Right? That's something additional you have to do. How you do it, I'll let you figure out.
So when we store the commands into the array, do we have to store like each command, like the move and capture, the set of chess and all?
Basically thinking this way. So how you actually define the structure for each command class, you can refer to the chapter. Basically, well, I can even tell you. When you read a chapter, it's going to tell you undo, redo, and execute, right? That's kind of the thing you can implement. But how to implement that, you may want to read a little bit further about the chapter to figure that out. Mm-hmm.
So basically, the whole point of having our own cluster is to implement those commands that we're then putting into the history.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Because one more thing to say. What should you store in the command? Would you store the whole board? Oh, good. Actually, I was about to answer anyway. So Uma, what do you want to say? Do you store the whole board? So okay, I tell you what. For lab 4, we may not be able to check so much detail, but we might check you on the exam. So you want to make sure you do it properly. Okay. Here's something I want to emphasize. The question is, what should be stored in each command objects? In each command objects. Okay? What you shouldn't do is to store the board. Because if you simply store the whole board, then what's the point of using this history, using the command pattern? You can just have an array of boards, basically, right? Right? Okay. Of course, that could be one working design for this example, because board is not very large. But think about you're doing undo redo for banking system with 1 million clients. Every time you do a transaction, you're gonna store the whole system, do a deep twin? No, I don't think so, right? So that's why you want to learn this pattern from small example, right? To make big, so you can scale. Okay, good. So now I'll give you a little bit hints how you can do. I'll just make one example, okay? Just for everybody. Okay? Let's say, how can you undo setup chest? Okay? Let's say this is the board I have, okay? For those of you who drop by my office, I'll actually mention this already to you. So just being fair, okay? Let's say that's my board over here, conceptually. Let's say I have set a chess. I want to set a king, and then let's say 2-2 over here. So that means king over here. Okay, basically that's what I have. So now, at the runtime, this is what's going to happen. Okay, when you actually execute this, number one, for sure it's going to put a king on the board. That's basically what you did for lab 3. Okay, for lab 4, you should also extend your history list. The first command should now be command. Let's say command or JW command, doesn't matter. Command, set up chest. Okay, so now let's have some discussion here. What should you store? Information should be just enough so that later on, when you call this command, the undo is going to undo whatever thing you have done. Okay, actually, another hint for you. These are the only information given to you, K, 2, and 2. You basically select a subset of them. Should you need to store K? Is K really necessary? Conceptually, think about what's going to be the undo effects. If I want to undo this particular action, I just wipe it out. Does it really matter if that's K or Q? Doesn't matter. Okay. So what I really need to know is about these two information over here. Basically, I want to know the position I want to undo the setup chess. So the only thing in store there, one moment, is 2 and 2. So now the way you do the undo over there is to say, I'm going to wipe out exactly this position over here. Okay? I'm just going to wipe it out. Questions? In that case, if you want to redo it, possibly, yes. Anyway, yes. So Uma make a good point, okay? Because I was only talking about undo, right? But maybe when I think about redo, Uma's point was, when you talk about undo over here, you only had to store 2 and 2. But what about redo? Redo, possibly you have to put the chess back, right? In that case, you may have to store K. Sure. Okay? And the more, come to you. The more complicated one will be a move and capture. So that one I'll leave to you. Okay? Questions?
Sir, what about this kind of design? We have the original one and the sort of two kinds of original one and the present one. And we store these two, then we read from the force and back to forth like this.
What do you store? You store the commands or you store the board?
I mean, like for this one, for example, the original one is default one, and you put in K there, right? And
You mean the original board?
Yeah, original board.
So you're talking about original board versus the new board.
Like I store a default one called new there, and
Store in where? Store in command?
Yeah.
So are you talking about the following? Are you trying to say, before the setup chess, I kind of store some old board, which might just be a deep twin of this. And then after this, I try to store something called new board. And then that one there is simply going to store a new copy of the new board. Is that what you're saying?
I just store the point 2 and 2 for the old board.
The point 2 and 2? Yeah, so that might be okay. So my point is, your command should not have a reference, should not store anything about the whole board. That's my point. If that's not what you're doing, you're on the right track. Okay? Exactly what information you store in the command, I want to give you a little bit freedom. You store only the thing that's necessary. Okay? The bottom line is you shouldn't store the whole board each time. Okay? Maybe that's kind of answer your question, right? Okay? How about another 5 or 10 minutes if you wish? Otherwise, you are fine. Okay? Anything about project if you want to ask me? Or not yet? Oh, you know what, guys? You know, since we're here, I'll give you a very friendly reminder. Project will take some time for sure, if not much. So I would say you want to start as early as you can. Especially, this is my tip. You want to make sure you finish task number 1, the composite part, as soon as you can. At least finish a working version, a version that just works. And then, what is the version that doesn't matter if the design is good or bad. And then you want to move on to task number 2. Task number 2, especially type check, is going to take you the most time. I mean task number 1? Yeah. Well, I would say I would say by the coming Wednesday, if you can finish task number 1, I think that it's a promising milestone. So that means you give yourself about 2 weeks or so, right, to do task number 2. Mm-hmm. Lab 5, I'll try to see if I can release Lab 5 even before the due date of Lab 4. So for those of you who already finished Lab 4, you can definitely start earlier. Hopefully that can help you a little bit, right? Lab 5 is just going to be math models. Yeah, I'll make it straightforward as I keep saying. Right? Questions? I guess it's not important then. Okay. Yeah. Okay, guys, any questions?
Oh, yes, I just remembered.
Okay, now just remember, yes.
So for the project, it said like we should work on the task 1 first, right? And is there a separate test for just task 1, so we would know, okay, our task 1 is working fine?
Yes, because task number 2 depends on task number 1. So there's no way you can start task number 2 first. Yeah.
Right.
So my point is, try to finish task number 1 as soon as you can. You don't have to make task number 1 perfect before you move to task number 2.
Okay, but is there any tests for the task 1, so we would know, like we can...
Oh, is there any test cases for task number 1? Not quite. I think you know, maybe think about. You may want to look at. Yeah, for task. I don't think so. So that's why I said you want to finish task number 1 as soon as you can. So at least you can go to implement maybe either. You want to implement generate Java code event first before type check. I think generate Java code might be a little bit easier to implement than type check. Okay. Mm-hmm. You may not really get a 100% identical actual output as the expected output to begin with. That's okay. At least you can see at least some part of it is identical. So that'd be okay. Yes, question? Yes, for the Oracle of Lab 4, I'm going to do that either Monday or Tuesday next week for sure. And then for the Oracle for the project, by next Friday, I'll release it. Yeah, so the idea would be you can try to maybe at least make sure the things I gave to you passed to begin with, and then try to write some acceptance test yourself first, and then once I give the Oracle, you can test them. Mm-hmm.
The PDF doesn't really do a good job of saying when you're able to undo and redo, like the different types of errors that you go through to get into.
So I would say, yeah, you're right. Somehow if you talk about left 4, right? So the instructions somehow give you a general idea about undo redo. So for example, you cannot undo and undo. That's one thing, right? That's kind of mentioned in the chapter, so that's why I didn't mention. And also, can you undo a start game? Can you undo a setup chess? That's something you can get a hint from the acceptance test. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the other two are just base cases, basically. And the other one, and the one, like AT04-undo.txt, that one's pretty long, I know. But I think that one gives you many scenarios there. You can find many of your answers from there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the idea would be, that's kind of, in some way that's done intentionally, right? To say, if I simply say too much in a PDF, that may not help you directly on implementing stuff. If you actually look at the acceptance test, that's kind of what you're targeting. So you can see actually what's to be done. Yeah, that's my intention. Yeah. Any questions? Okay, next Friday, okay, we'll still have the same idea. So it'll be lecture first, and then we have review. Hopefully you have more questions for me next Friday about the projects. Okay, if you got more questions, I'll answer that offline.